Hello world, welcome back to the Razor RC, and today we're doing the full review Team Associated T6.2 Team Kit. This came out in the beginning of 2021, so I've had it about, 5 or 6 months, been running it, testing it, tuning it, and just wanted to do the full review. So the way this works is we go through 6 different categories, give it a rating from 1 to 5 stars, where 5 stars would pretty much mean best in class, 1 star would mean worst in class, and 3 stars would be about average. So this is obviously a 1/10 scale electric 2-wheel drive stadium truck. So competitors to this are going to be things like the TLR 22T 4.0, the Schumacher Storm ST, which I also have, and then other things like the X-Ray XT2 or the Yokomo YZ2T. So pretty much it's a 1/10 scale race truck, and this is a class that's kind of declined in popularity a bit the last few years, so maybe not quite as popular. This used to kind of be like the 2nd or 3rd most popular class, but it's probably like the 4th or 5th most popular at this point. But still, it's cool to see Team Associated still coming out and updating this vehicle. Now, obviously, it is based off the B6.2, which is their 2-wheel drive race buggy from Team Associated. They've since released a B6.3, so this does not have any of the 6.3 updates, but I'll kind of go over what they actually changed in the 6.2. So pulling off the body, nice little Pro-Line looking body. Here's the vehicle itself. So electronics wise, I'm running a Savax 1267 SG Hobbywing XR10 Pro stock spec ESC, little ARX42R receiver, which is compatible with the Sandwell radios. And then I've got the full complement of Witt's components. So the Witt's Racing fan, like all aluminum black fan, pretty nice. 13 5-turn hyper spec motor from Witt's Racing. Pretty good motor, especially we have a 20% off coupon, so you can get this, the motor, or even the ceramic bearings, which I outfitted this with for 20% off. So this motor is like 80 bucks after the discount, and probably the fastest $80 motor I think you can get. Just crank up the timing to somewhere around 50 degrees to start with a fan, and then gear appropriately, and I think you'll find it pretty competitive actually, especially at a club racing type level. Other modifications I've made are mostly on the front end. So I've got the all aluminum Exotech steering block. So this is fits both the B6 and the T6 series. I also have the full aluminum steering rack. That includes the bell cranks, the Ackerman bar. Just adds more durability on the front end, and then of course an aluminum servo horn, which I think is a must-have. I also added a steel ESC tray and a steel, no, I'm sorry, I don't have the servo tray. Out of the box, it comes with an aluminum servo tray. I decided to go to steel just to get the weight a little more forward. I'm running this on carpet. I got the battery all the way up. I got the lay-down transmission. Pretty much have as much of a forward biased type weight distribution, just a little more appropriate to carpet. Now, changes they made from the T6.1. I also had a T6.1 that I ran on dirt. They did make some changes to that. So one of the biggest changes, they did update the front arms and rear arms. So they got these gull wing style arms. They are not compatible with the SC6.2 anymore. So the SC6.1 and T6.1 had fully compatible arms. This one does not. They are unique to the T6.2. They also updated the rear hub, so kind of this shell style rear hub with adjustable, sort of up, down, left, right on the rear hubs to get that ball stead in that perfect location. 8.5 millimeter rear hexes. I think they used to be 7 millimeters if I remember offhand correctly. Other changes, it does include that ESC tray like I mentioned. It does have the +1 carbon fiber steering arms here on the front. So the old one, the T6.1, had aluminum +0 arms. I always felt like the +1s were necessary. It was nice to see they included that. Did update the front body mount here. And then lastly, I think they now actually have a front sway bar, 1.3 millimeters. The kit also comes with 2 different transmission cases, either the lay back, which moves everything further back a few millimeters, or the lay down like I'm running here, which is a little more suitable for high traction surfaces. Pretty much most surfaces, any sort of like high bite clay, AstroTurf, carpet, you're going to be wanting to run the lay down transmission. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the updates, and we're going to go through the 6 categories now. We're going to be talking about the build, the design, support and maintenance, performance, durability, and finally the value. And then I'll give a final conclusion on how I feel about this vehicle overall and whether I think it's worth getting it. So as mentioned, I also had a 22T 4.0, so very familiar with that truck. Really good stadium truck. I also have a Schumacher Storm that I also run. Ran these back to back to kind of get a better feel for sort of the driving characteristics and the differences between the two, and I will be sharing that for you. So first off, we're going to be talking about the build, and this thing pretty much builds like all Team Associated vehicles. Manual is fine, nothing really wrong with it. But it does kind of have all the main weaknesses I find with Team Associated builds. First off, there are no wheels included in the box. Most kits still come with wheels. This does not, so they saved a few bucks there, but you have to buy the wheels itself. You will have to cut the wing and the body by yourself, so no pre-cut body. Not a hard body to cut, but just extra work that some other kits have pre-cut for you. Parts are parts trees, so you will need flush cutters to cut everything out. There are a few parts that are sort of standalone, like I think maybe the arms and stuff maybe by itself, the transmission cases, but a lot of the parts you'll still have to cut off part trees using flush cutters, so just extra work there. The order is not completely A to Z. Some parts I had to skip ahead and grab parts out of different bags and then pull them back to earlier steps, like the drag link rod ends I think are one part that kind of come with the ball cup rod ends, so a little bit annoying but not a big deal, but would be kind of nice to have everything kind of straightforward. The ball cups are a little loose. That's better than being too tight, but it's really hard to get these plastics just right. I do like Team Associated ball cups in general, but these are a hair on the loose side. Not a big deal, but just something I kind of noticed down. And then kind of the main thing, really the caster blocks on all these series of vehicles, all the 2-wheel drive caster blocks, you pretty much have to file them down. Otherwise, these spindles really just don't turn freely. They will bind a little bit. These things are not completely parallel. Spencer Rifkin actually has a video explaining how to do that, but just something to be aware of. You will have to file those down. And lastly, transmission case. It's a nice 3-piece transmission, easy to work on, easy to get the diff in and out, just like 5 screws or so. But I do find that they don't fit quite as smoothly. The transmission, the gear diff is not going to spin quite as easily. I am running a gear diff, not the ball differential. Some people said the ball differential does move more smoothly. I don't know. I just run gear discs because we're in carpet, but yeah, definitely transmission is not quite as free as I would have liked to see. So those are kind of all the issues you generally will run into with Team Associated kits. I mean, even the latest B6.3, pretty much the same thing, all the same issues. So I am actually going to give it a below average score in the build category. I'm going to give it 2 stars. I do feel like at this point, most other kits build a little bit better. Most higher end race kits do have all the parts pre-cut for you. Maybe not the body, but certainly there are not really parts on parts trees. There are some nice things like the X-rings and some of the other components I think are pretty nice, but there's a little more work, a little more fiddly. Certainly things like the caster blocks, they need to fix at some point. And so overall, I'm going to give the build a below average score of 2 stars. Next up is the design, and the T6.2 is pretty up to date. It's got pretty much all the latest changes, all the modifications, all the little adjustments you can make. I'll just go through them real quick. Obviously, adjustable shock locations both on the shock tower and the bottom, and nice carbon fiber shock towers. Adjustable steering arms, so whether you want a little more Ackerman, a little less Ackerman curve. Nice gull wing arms, adjustable axle heights here on the front end and the rear end. Sway bars options, obviously, for the front and I believe the back. They also make sway bars. Adjustable battery mounting locations, 5 different positions. You actually flip this thing around and get another 5 sort of like half increments, so that's pretty cool to see. Weights for the servo, for the ESC tray, basically adjust the weight bias. A couple different transmission options. Sort of this new, I don't know what you call it, almost Octolock style, but yeah, pretty interesting slipper with the reverse sided spring and net over there on the end. It does have a fan mount now, which is pretty nice. You know, certainly something that Team Associated stuff kind of needed in the past. Different shock mounting locations. You can put them on the front of the shock towers, on the rear of the shock towers. You can flip the arms to get sort of different shock mounting locations on the bottom. These rear hubs are pretty much as good as you can get. A lot of different adjustments. Aluminum axles front and rear, so those are pretty cool. See your aluminum hexes in the back. Steel drive bones and CVAs. Full-on pill system to adjust anti-squat, toe in, track width here in the rear. So tons and tons of adjustments, pretty much class leading at this point. Stadium truck doesn't really get as much love as buggies in general, so they're always kind of maybe one generation behind depending on when they get released. But you know, this pretty much has everything you need. I do think the design is excellent. It is missing the 6.3 updates where they had, you know, sort of the chassis mounted servo, but you know, that in my opinion is pretty minor. I do think the design is pretty much still class leading at this point. It is one of the newest trucks on the market for sure. So in the design category, I'm gonna give 5 stars, pretty much class leading and really one of the strong points of the T6.2. Performance has been a little iffy in my opinion in the past. I did have a T6.1. I never really got fully comfortable with that truck. The setup was something I was always kind of chasing. I did feel like the 22T 4.0 was better out of the box or with some minor, you know, sort of setup changes. So 22T 4.0 to me just had a little more corner speed, a little more traction. I think it was a little bit lighter as well. The T6.2 tends to be a little bit more on the heavy side. So yeah, this series of trucks performance-wise always seem to lack a little bit. I do think the T6.2 is excellent. Whatever changes they made to the geometry with the different gull wing arms and stuff like that seems to work really well. This thing drives pretty good. I've only been running it on carpet, so I don't know how it would run on dirt, but you know, out of the box, this is set up as a dirt vehicle, so I'm sure it's optimized pretty well for that. They've had time to make changes and updates to this, whereas, you know, pretty much all the other kits on the market are still a couple years old, kind of dated at this point, I think. So this is one of the latest ones and really should be one of the highest performing vehicles. That said, I do also have a Schumacher Storm. I do think the Storm has more steering. I do think the Storm also has a little more traction. This guy, I'm always adding, you know, sort of grippier and grippier tires on the front end. Whatever grippy tires you can put in is what I would recommend. I run Prisms front and rear, but like on the Schumacher, the Prisms are too grippy actually, and I can actually get away with you know, sort of less tractiony, less grippy front tires on that. So I do think the T6.2 is pretty good in the performance category. I'm not sure it's really class leading. The shocks are not quite as good as the TLRs. Maybe the speed isn't quite there as much as the Storm. I think the design is better, but you know, it's hard to say that this is really best in class. I also think it is a little bit more on the heavy side. I haven't weighed it, you know, back to back. I've got slightly different electronics, but the T6 series have never been particularly lightweight. So if you're running sort of a spec class type class or racing at your local club, then you will probably want to look into lightening the vehicles a little bit just to get a little more speed on that limited motor. So in the performance category, I'm going to give it 4 stars. I do think the T6.2 drives pretty much like all other Associated vehicles. It is very easy to drive, pretty stable, doesn't do anything too weird, jumps and lands pretty well. You know, it's a very easy to drive vehicle. Certainly if you're new, I think the T6.2 is a good vehicle to start with, and for sure, obviously if you have other Team Associated vehicles, it makes sense to keep with this brand, but I'm not sure it's really the best performing truck on the market today. The T6.1 had a little bit of issues with durability. People were breaking like the spindles on the front end. I didn't break too much on the T6.1, but I do find the T6.2 to be pretty durable, and this is certainly one of the most durable vehicles on the market. The TLR22T, you will break the little inserts on the spindles. Ball cups can pop off. They don't, for whatever reason, they don't seem to stay on quite as well. The Storm, I think some of the front end parts also breaks. I did break like a camber block. I did break a caster block or spindle. I can't remember which one exactly. So yeah, those standard trucks do take a little bit more abuse as compared to buggies because the arms stick out so far. The wheels are gigantic here on the end, so you have a lot of leverage on these parts. These poor little plastic parts up front do tend to break a little bit, but I will say the T6.2 is very, very durable, probably the most durable truck on the market today. I haven't owned every single truck out there, but I do find the T6.2 to be super, super durable. Even the body has held up pretty well, this Proline body. The T6.1, they kind of had like this lightweight body for whatever reason. Maybe that was a mistake, but they went back to the regular thickness bodies here on the T6.2. They are quite durable. The wing's been holding up. So overall, yeah, I think the T6.2 gets a full 5 stars in the durability category. If you crash a lot, if you break things a lot, this is probably one of the ones I would look into. Support and maintenance is important. If you break a part, it's nice to be able to walk into the hobby shop, pick up a replacement part, and then get back out there on the track. Not having the right parts when you break something can certainly end your race night and be pretty disappointing. I will say Team Associated, at least here in the United States, is the best supported company. I think they're pretty good about keeping parts in stock. Certainly in the last year and a half, parts have been difficult to get because factories, manufacturers have been pumping out RC parts, and it's sort of exploded over the last year and a half. A lot of people have been gotten into RC, so a little bit harder to slot in those spots to get your parts made. But Team Associated did a really good job. I think for the most part, everything has been in stock, or if you do have to wait, it's usually not too bad, maybe a few weeks. So yeah, in this area, Team Associated being a super popular brand, having more setup sheets than all the other brands, I think makes them a very easy brand to own, easy vehicle to repair. All the parts have easy access. The transmission, like I mentioned, has that split transmission case, easy to get out the diffs. Everything's kind of laid out. Even the servo is easy to get to. You don't have to, it's not all crammed up here like some other vehicles. So yeah, in the support maintenance category, I think this is class leading. I'm gonna give it a full 5 stars. It's really one of the easiest brands and vehicles to own, and you really won't have any trouble in that area. The T6.2 sells for $360 here in the United States. That's not exactly cheap. The TLR sells for $330, obviously a few dollars less. The YZ2T is I think regularly like $380, but right now it's on sale for $340. Probably higher component parts. The X-Ray X2T sells for $370 at the time of this video. That is a 2021 version, so I don't know if they're going to come out with a new version next year, but just slightly more, but much higher quality components. Everything is pre-cut. All the arms, all the plastics, all the metals are definitely a cut above the Team Associated stuff. I think the quality of the components and stuff are actually pretty good on the T6.2. They've certainly gotten better through the years. The fit and finish, just the metals, you got the beveled, chamfered edges on the motor plates, lots of aluminum parts. So pretty good vehicle overall. It's got the X-rings, titanium nitride coated shock shafts. The turnbuckles are certainly one of the nicer ones out there, kind of this chrome plated turnbuckles. It does include some option parts like the aluminum ESC tray and the 2 different transmissions. But Team Associated generally is a little bit on the less pricey side and usually provides pretty good value, but I don't see it here in the T6.2. The TLR has way better components, a lot more in value in the box, I think, with the pre-cut body, the wheels included. Pretty much everyone else includes wheels. So there's areas, you're going to spend at least another, I don't know, $15 or so for wheels. And that already brings us up to the same price as other brands, if not higher. Yet I don't think the quality of the vehicle is quite as good as some of these other brands. Certainly the Yokomo, the X-Ray, and I think the TLR as well is a little bit higher quality vehicle. So yeah, in the value category, I am going to give it 2 stars. I think the cost of this is a little bit higher. Now obviously this is the newest of all those vehicles, so maybe you're getting a little bit better performance, maybe you're getting a little bit better design, and so I think it rates higher in those areas, but the value of the parts, the components themselves, I think is a little bit below average. I'm going to give it 2 stars in the value category. So my final thoughts on the Team Associated T6.2 is that it's a very popular truck, probably the most popular truck out there. Certainly is easier to get parts, easier to get setup sheets, easier to kind of brainstorm with other drivers out there and figure out the setup. That really is kind of the area I think people may struggle with. There's not a lot of stadium truck racing, certainly here in the United States. It's kind of been dying down. Getting that perfect setup is a little bit harder because you can't just throw down whatever the latest pros are using, especially for carpet. You know, I pretty much had to adapt a Blake Champlin T6.1 setup just to kind of get a base starting setup for my T6.2, because there really wasn't a T6.2 carpet setup. I think Jovi Lovin, another local guy, has a setup out there, so I should take a look at that. But yeah, in general, you know, setups for truck are not as common because not a whole lot of people race trucks, so finding that perfect setup will be a little more work, and that's kind of one area I think Team Associated shines. You'll probably get a little bit closer to that perfect setup because there's just so many people running Team Associated vehicles. Now, in terms of the purchase itself, it is a little bit pricey. I think the truck is really, really good. Performance is good. I don't have it quite as dialed as my Storm yet. I'm still working on the setup and stuff, but I think there's definitely potential there. So many adjustments on this vehicle that I should be able to dial it in. It will just take some time. Durability is best in class. Support and maintenance is best in class. I think design is probably best in class. But some of the other areas I feel like Team Associated has slipped a little bit. The build, they're not really spending as much effort on, maybe to try to keep the price down. I understand they're a little bit of a smaller company as compared to like Horizon Hobby, for example, which is sort of the 800-pound gorilla in the room at this point, because they pretty much own everything. But Team Associated is still one of the bigger brands. They do, have high volume, so getting parts for this and bringing that cost down, I think should be achievable. So yeah, I kind of give you my thoughts. Value, build, probably on the lower end. Design, performance, durability, support and maintenance, certainly on the higher end. If you're interested in stadium truck, this is still definitely one of the ones to consider. I think the TLR is getting a little bit dated at this point. I would like to see a 5.0, if not even a 6.0. They really haven't made any changes to that truck, but as you've seen in past results over the years, the 22T is still a very, very competitive vehicle. Other vehicles out there, the X-Ray I don't have, or the Yokomo, but those are, again, not super popular. Going to be harder to find setup sheets. So yeah, if you're interested in stadium truck, this is still definitely one of the ones to consider. Probably the one I would buy if I were running on dirt. On carpet, a little less clear. The Schumacher is also excellent. That was my pick for best stadium truck at the beginning of this year, but that was before the T6.2 was released. So I am kind of testing them both out. I think they're both really good vehicles, just slightly different. This is a little more neutral, a little more easy to drive. I think a little more beginner friendly, probably easier to dial in. But the Storm is a fantastic carpet truck. I haven't ran it on AstroTurf or dirt, but on carpet, that thing is pretty dialed. I think it's pretty good. And so yeah, anyways, those are my thoughts on the Team Associated T6.2. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out Wits Racing, 20% off any of these parts you see here. I also have links to all the other components if you want to purchase the same stuff I've got running in my T6.2. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Look for more videos soon. Talk to you later.